Welcome to the Play at 3 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tisha Poncio.
And I'm
Hi,
the other
Rick.
host, Rick, that clearly had a plan in mind.
Sorry, I just wanted to
this is the thing that we're
wanted to
going
say
to
hi
go
to
straight.
everybody. I missed them.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the Play at 3 podcast. As Tisha's already said, her name's Tish, my name's Rick. We're two neurodivergent people. I have dyslexia, Tisha has ADHD, and we decided that a wacky idea was to have an actual podcast and talk about all things education, leadership, and neurodivergent.
And playful learning.
Sorry?
And playful learning.
And playful learning. Okay, I forgot the fourth point. It's the first time I've said that. That literally just rolled off the tongue, which I'm very impressed with. I'm very impressed with. But for those that are neurodivergent, they will know that when you're trying to learn something new and speak it on the first go can be very, very challenging. And you know what? Just completely off the ball, I'm going to advocate for every neurodivergent person that wants to improve on their speaking to do a podcast or do a recording. Doesn't have to be posted anywhere. It is for your own strength, your own growth, to record yourself, to listen to yourself, so that you feel comfortable of, one, recording in front of a camera, second, recording audio, and thirdly, which is more important, to hear and see yourself speaking. So
that's
you know
the hard part. That's the hard part for everyone.
I mean, that's the thing. Remember the amount of times we used to record at the beginning and you would say, so have you watched it? I'm like, I'm not watching myself.
You know what's interesting, Rick, is that in 2021, I think 2022, you and I had a conversation after ISTE, and we didn't really know that we were neurodivergent together. Like we didn't, I didn't know. I think you knew and you thought I knew. But
I knew you were neurodivergent, and I had this very strong feeling that you were ADHD. Thinking that you already knew this.
Yeah, I think what it is, though, if you remember back then, we had a conversation and you asked me something about, how do you speak so well? It looks like you aren't even trying. It looks like you've not practiced.
It's remarkable.
Like, how do you do that?
Just to give everyone context, this was the moment that I realized Tish was like incredible at speaking.
Shout out to Holly Clark. I know what story's coming.
Yeah. So Holly Clark came to the Workloads booth at TCA in 2023.
Two.
I mix up my years. In 2022, TCA over in Dallas, and she came up to the Workloads booth with her phone, tripod, and literally wanted to just record a quick video with Tisha explaining the Workloads platform. And without a script, no real planning, she literally rolled off with no no pauses, no filler words that we would tend to use, and nailed it in one take. That is no joke. I am not making this up. We were all, everybody at the Workloads booth was in awe at the professionalism that she presented. And the booth next to us was also just stopped what they're doing to listen to Tish reeling this off like she'd done it a million times over. But really, it was just one take. That was it. And she was done. So, shout out to Holly Clark for doing that and showing the power that Tisha has when it comes to communicating. And I'll tell you now, she's not done it since.
I don't think
I'm joking.
I don't think anybody knew. Like, I don't even think I knew that I was able to do that. Now, what you should know, and this is really leaning into that neurodivergent like lifestyle, right? I have always been great at public speaking without intending to be. And so I think neurodivergence, a lot of us have these talents that sometimes are hidden because we self-criticize so much, because the world criticizes us so much. And when I was in high school, my high school English teacher, so shout out to all the English teachers because you know that you are so influential on your students. She saw something in me and I had to give a report and speak in front of class, and I was mortified. I mean, as you know, with neurodivergent, odd ADHD, dyslexia, anything that falls in that category, you overthink everything. And so I knew I was going to have to stand up in front of the class and talk about this topic, Lena Horne, and I was just so not ready, but something magically happened when I got up and did that, and my class actually voted me the best out of all of the classes, the best presentation, the best speech, and that was sort of then when I kind of thought, "Well, maybe there's something here," but I didn't think about it again, and I was a cheerleader, so I was put on the gym floor with microphones in front of large audiences often.
Mm.
But I knew the cheers and I knew what I was gonna do, and it was something that I was doing with a team, so it didn't feel intimidating to me, and sometimes I am intrigued by that. I think if you are listening and you are an actor or an actress, you're, you know, doing anything on stage, something I learned when I became a teacher is the students who were so incredible on the stage, the movie stars, the star, the lead of the play,
Yeah.
incredible performance, right? Could emote and get the words out to make the audience feel something. And
Mhm.
then I would have them in class and they would sit at the back of the room and they wouldn't say anything. They didn't want to be called on. They didn't want to be like the leader of the group. And it was fascinating. And so I asked one of my students, I said, explain this to me. Like, you're phenomenal. You could be on Broadway and like, but in a classroom with students in a learning environment, you just kind of sit back. Now I think that she was neurodivergent, but also she said, I would rather be on a stage and perform for 5,000 people than to be in my classroom leading a group and talking for my peers. And there was something powerful about that for me because I thought, wow, I think I'm the same and didn't actually know. I'd rather speak to 5,000 people on a stage. Put
Mhm.
me in a small group, put me in a small meeting. If I'm not leading the meeting, I'm going to be just like that student, kind of standing back, observing, watching the room, and scanning for danger, if you will. um, but I think that's the thing. You said something to me. You said, "How did you do that?" Back to 2022. And I said, it was a lot of practice. And it was. I have a video from Apple Distinguished Educator that is on private right now on YouTube because when I listen to it, if I let you hear it, maybe we'll share a clip of it. I might let Rick share a very small clip of it here, which would be
Ooh.
a big deal. My Avery didn't even know that it was me when I played it. She said, "Who is talking?" And I said, "That's me in like 2010." And you have to keep doing the thing to refine it. We talk about that a lot. And so
Mm.
you said to me, I want to do that. That's one of my goals. I want to be able to do that. And I said, "Okay, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to do it." And I remember back then, you couldn't have imagined hosting a podcast and
Absolutely
standing up in
not.
front of people and doing presentations. So I
No.
think it is a great story and a great reminder to other people that the thing that you want to do, surround yourself with people who are already doing that because they're gonna teach you. They're gonna teach you all the things that they learned along the way, and that's one of our leadership, strategies in our book, right? Who you
Yes.
surround yourself with is who you become, and
Yeah.
so if you wanna become an author, get around authors. If you wanna become better at public speaking, get around people who are public speaking. But
Exactly.
neurodivergence, Rick. Neurodivergents have all of these incredibly amazing talents. And I was talking to a teacher last night and she actually called me. And she calls me. We talk pretty often, but it was like 9 p.m. and she said, I need to share something with you. I'm really proud of my students and I wasn't sure who to call." And I was like, "Okay, let's have it." And her students wanted to get together and put together a peaceful protest. Now, these are high school students, okay?
Mhm.
And the leader of this was a student who often gets in trouble for vaping, who doesn't turn in their work on time, who may or may not be getting in trouble for other things. And she said, "Tisha, when he had a purpose and a passion, he organized this entire peaceful protest and put rules in place for everybody who was going to participate. The signs couldn't have profanity. They had to stand a certain, number of inches from the curb so that they weren't in the street. He called the police department and told them about it. He organized everything. And even like as far as picking up trash after. And she said, so one of the things she did with them is she walked them through critical thinking skills, right? And which I think is fantastic. We talk about preparing students for the future. This was a real life example of that. And she almost had me crying because I thought, this is how we want to create leaders. We want to teach them, if they have a passion and a purpose for something, critically thinking them through the whole process. That is our role. We have to model for them, and we have to ask the questions that they're not asking themselves because they're still kids. They don't know. They don't know like why everybody would be offended if you put profanity on a sign. It's all about like the messaging and how it's going to land for people. And so she was really good at like walking them through that. But I just started thinking, he represents, and I don't even know that the student is neurodivergent, then that doesn't matter. What I want to say is neurodivergent students may be sitting in your offices and leadership positions. They may be sitting in your classrooms, and you may have this preconceived notion that they are lazy, troublemakers, never turning anything in on time, don't know how to show up in a class or a meeting. My whole point with these stories, from the actress all the way to this student leader who organized this peaceful protest, is that you have to stop thinking that your students fully, or the people that you work with fully, because they're showing up, and they're showing up in ways that maybe are not quantifiable to the student data system or the STAR test. But that right there, that was true student leadership to me. And I was so glad that she called me. I mean, it was 11 p.m. and I was still talking to her about it. And she kept talking through it. And then I did offer her a spot to come talk about that particular piece on our podcast. But isn't that an incredible story, Rick?
It's an incredible story, and what I find interesting is two things. Firstly, I see this so often when you've got someone that appears disinterested in the things that are being done in class, but you give them something that they are
Yes.
passionate about, they won't give
Yes.
just 100%.
No.
They will give 1,000% into it because they
or
are
more.
they
Yeah.
have an emotional attachment to
Yep.
that, and
Yep.
they want to make sure that they see it through and done correctly and done in the way that they want to see it actually happen. Now, before you continue, Tish, because
Oh, I'm done. That was my story. Those were my stories. That's what I've got today. I'm done.
well,
No, I'm
you say
kidding.
that. What's interesting is I like to kind of put a couple of ideas together. And what's funny is I have 7 ideas that I'm wanting to move forward with, and I had
That we
one in
haven't
mind.
pre-talked about.
We haven't pre-talked about. This is what I've done completely separately. Tisha has given me responsibility and taken control of this, and this is what I love about Tisha's neurodivergence, ADHD brain, is the fact that she has just gone into 3 of those 7 topics that I was looking at going into. The fact is, I was only wanting to do one of them for this episode specifically.
10 minutes in. 10 minutes in, I've already covered
and
3.
she's already covered 3 of them, and I was thinking, you know what? Each one of these could be an episode. No, we're 3 in. This is clearly the way Tish works, is that this whole 7 ideas is going to be one episode. It's not going to be. I'm probably going to take a few little bits from each one. But really, the main things that I just want to highlight that you pointed out, one is the leadership standpoint, that it is amazing how many people who have a form of neurodivergency who are in leadership or management positions, and the fact that you may not even know that they're neurodivergent, because one, they could be masking it, but also because they've gone through years and years of ups and downs, failing, succeeding, understanding how their brain works, what suits them, what is the best ways to communicate. So many different things that both you and I have gone through as well.
Yeah.
The other ones, which are really, I thought leadership was going to be the one that we were going to talk about today, and then you decided to go into the fact that this student isn't handing in homework, caught vaping, misbehaving, disruptive, but they're going out and putting so much effort into this
I mean,
is because when we look at things as a neurodivergent, like small talk is, I want to say, is a killer to us because we
it is a
hate
killer.
it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
me and
yeah.
Tish will be talking and she'll be like, so what do you want to talk about? And I'd be kind of racking my brains because I know just turning around and saying, so what did you have for dinner last night? Or what did you get
I
up to or anything? No,
actually,
she
you
wants
do
like,
ask me that.
I
Yeah,
do
you
ask
will
it.
ask me like, "What did you do?" And I'm like, "I did nothing."
You did nothing. You don't want to go into detail with it, even though she can
Exactly.
list off like a half an hour conversation of the things she did.
Yeah, because I'm not interested in
Tish,
talking about
Tisha
those
is the
surface
kind of
level
person,
things.
and I'm very much the same when I get into the flow of it, that the question could be, let's discuss why the Earth rotates in the direction that it does, at the speed that it does, and understand the
And
meaning
how
of
is
the
that affecting me
universe.
right now in the state of Texas, in my house right now?
Yep, exactly. So when you were explaining that story, that's what came to my mind. He
Yeah.
is most likely doesn't find the environment in the classroom engaging
Yep.
enough, but you give him a project or a
It's a real
conversation that
life
requires a deep
passion.
discussion, deep
Yeah.
meaning, deep understanding, they're
Yeah.
going to be invested a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
That was my
Yeah.
second topic. My third topic was around misbehavior in the classroom. And you also went into that. And so I'm like, crikey, okay, we're 15 minutes in. Tisha's already gone into those areas. But what I'm going to do for this one, so that everyone is aware of the direction of this episode for once, we actually have a structure. We're going to go down the leadership approaches. I think that your story it's resonated with me, especially because he's created something, a silent
Yeah.
protest, making
Yeah.
sure that he's adhering to the law. The most important thing is you're in a country where freedom of speech is encouraged,
Mm-hmm.
and he is doing it in the correct manner. He is standing up for something that he believes, and he's
Mm-hmm.
adhering to the law to ensure that it is done in the most appropriate way, the most respectful way, but making sure that message is put across. And that's fantastic to see a young student going that above and beyond for something
And
that
he
they believe in.
gathered all of these students. I mean, he gathered this group of students together. They was so well thought out. And I just
Mm-hmm.
thought the teacher, I've known this teacher. I speak about her on my TikTok channel. Um I always wondered why I got along so well with her, but we did a lot of body doubling, and I didn't know that's what it was called. And so she would come in my classroom and we would work, but we wouldn't talk to each other. Body doubling.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing though, last night when she called and told me the story about her student, it dawned on me that not only did I see her neurodivergence, like without even recognizing my own, but I think what I recognize about people in general as a neurodivergent, because I can clock pretty much anybody. That's my little secret. If I am meeting you or I already know you, I could probably sit down and tell you everything about what's happening with you. That's just one of those talents with neurodivergence. But I realized last night it is the passion that she has to create incredible leaders out of her
Mm-hmm.
students that she has right then, right there in that moment in time. And she said, "I didn't wanna, like, disturb them. I wanted to support them, but, being a teacher, it's kinda like, you're you're always stuck between a rock and a hard place, but you wanna
Yep.
support your students and you
Oh,
can't do certain
100%.
things," right? So, I guess they were by the Starbucks, and so she said, "I just went to Starbucks and got coffee because I just wanted coffee, but I also wanted to, like, be able to so that they knew that I cared about them," and
Yeah.
I thought she just is so incredible, and that student is incredible, and I wish we could continue to replicate that, everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I dive into some of my kind of thought processes with like, I'm looking at it from a leadership, trust, and also designing the
Mm,
classroom differently, or designing the
okay.
experience is probably a better word, differently within the classroom. But one thing I do want to just highlight, and I'm doing a little bit of a shout out for both mine and Tish's TikToks.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you are on TikTok, please check out Tisha Ponzio, Rick Butterworth on TikTok, where we're actually both doing. Tisha started this first. I essentially copied her. Doing videos that are dedicated to neurodivergency and what our experiences have been, what we've learned through the years of being neurodivergent. And if that's something that interests you, please check it out. Hopefully, the conversations and the stories that we have resonate with you to hopefully help you, or help you understand somebody else that's neurodivergent in your day-to-day life. So going back to what I've got here, so you're explaining about the teacher who has someone that is potentially neurodivergent based on what you've described,
Mhm.
uh, but being someone that has always tried to accommodate to others. How would you Can you give me some examples where you've actually done that in your own classroom? So you've moved
Mm.
from accommodating really to an intentional design. So what I mean by that is, rather than just saying, you know what, I have a classroom of 30 students, 5 of them are neurodivergent, so I will do this because that's what I have to do, and I will adapt it and accommodate to these people. Moving away from that and being more intentional as a class with the curriculum so that it's actually accommodating to everybody, and maybe not
Mhm.
even just in a classroom. What is there anything that comes to mind in what you've done as day-to-day life or at work as well?
Well, I think when I started off as a teacher, I think a lot of people listening probably have the same story, but it was, I would receive at when school started, I would receive a notebook around week 2 or 3, sometimes 4, it depended, a notebook of all of my students with every one of their accommodations.
Mhm.
And so they could have been dyslexic students, they could have been, ADHD students. I mean, there are so many different reasons for these accommodations, and then there are so many accommodations. It's sort of like, okay, I'm gonna give you an analogy because, as a neurodivergent,
You
I like
love
to give
your
you
analogies.
pictures. I think in pictures and I think in analogies, and it helps me connect things. So sometimes I use them to help other people connect. There is a way right there that I accommodate
Mhm.
for people, right? Um, so here's my analogy. Let's see. Do you like In and Out or Whataburger best?
Ooh, that's a very good. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna say In and Out. I
Okay,
really enjoyed when we went to In and
yeah,
Out.
yeah. I love In and Out. The last 3 bites are always the best. Okay, we'll move on. Okay,
I don't know about
so
that, but anyway.
I mean, it is. It's true. We'll debate that a different day.
Okay.
But let's just say that I'm at the In and Out, and this is what it's like in the classroom. I'm at In and Out, and I am the only worker behind the counter. I have my little hat on. I have my little apron on. The potatoes are behind me, already peeled and cut up for the French fries. All of that. Being a teacher is like being the only person in that restaurant responsible for everybody's order and making sure that they are leaving satisfied with what they
Mhm.
need.
Yeah.
That is a lot of pressure. And so when you are individualizing everything, which In and Out does do, it's like, okay, I want a double animal style, except hold the tomatoes, and then I want fries extra crispy animal style. I want a cherry Coke and also a Neapolitan shake. That's a lot of individualized things that were not on the menu. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
the general ed students are getting the regular menu. But it's like your neurodivergent students, all of the students with accommodations, they are the secret menu. And that secret menu has a bunch of different combinations. And so when you are responsible for that across the board, lots of pressure to do that. I think it's why you find teachers are we easily can manage a lot of different things. And I think going from the classroom to ed tech for me has been a struggle. I'm not having to accommodate for 800 people. Like, it's just a handful now, right? So it's
Yeah.
so interesting. And then my brain is like, why are we not doing this? You've been doing this for 25 years or whatever. Why did you stop? So in the classroom, I just realized it was sort of an aha moment. And the way that these aha moments come about is get yourself out of your classroom, get yourself out of your district, get yourself out of your school, get yourself out of your city, go to a conference, go to a virtual conference, do something different. You need a different perspective. And that is what I started doing. And in doing that, I started having conversations with other teachers with the same struggles.
Mm-hmm.
And they had solutions that were working, solutions that didn't work. And then they were back to the drawing board. So in those conversations, I went, okay, it made me start thinking more innovatively. Yes, I'm half British. Now I say that word that way. But
I'll give
here's
you
the
that.
thing. It's very much getting out of your regular environments. And that's what made me see, oh, I can implement certain things. Okay, so here's the example. When I realized that if I would just stack ed tech platforms, right? So I was using digital technology, but also I was using pen and paper, and I was also using the whiteboard. Like, I was using everything. But when I started stacking ed tech platforms and stacking my learning objectives, I was able to hit so many things at once, and that's where I saw my students grow. So I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to go back to 2018. I'm going to talk about Flipgrid. Flipgrid sadly was sunset, but here's the thing.
Mm.
This would work with any video tool. It could even be your video, like videos on your phone. There's lots of great platforms out there. That's not the point of this discussion. What I want to do is just illustrate for listeners how I did this. I started using my learning management tool, the one that my school provides and told me I had to use, right? So,
Yep.
okay, I'm within the boundaries of that. ADHD, we have to have boundaries, but we also like to break the rules. So I thought, okay, I'm going to use that. And I'm also going to I think I was utilizing Flipgrid and Wakelet together. So this is dated. You can hear it, but it worked. And it's what taught it to me. Okay. I know
Mm-hmm.
you're laughing, but it's
Yeah.
true, right?
Yeah.
Some of the
It's true.
platforms
It's
you
true.
use aren't here anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. So I started assigning things in the learning management tool, but it wasn't regular assignments. It wasn't something written. It wasn't something that was on a Google Doc. I basically was giving them prompts and asking them to record videos and give me their answers. And they could do that in any way that they wanted. They could talk to the camera. They
Mm-hmm.
could just record their voice. They could put a video together with screenshots of their worksheet if they wanted. They could make it a podcast style. They could do it in groups. Like, I open-ended that assignment. And when I did that, I realized in that first assignment, they're all doing this assignment in the way that meets their needs. So instead of me having to accommodate for them, they were learning how to accommodate for themselves by making
Mm-hmm.
choices of which products they were going to turn in. And I think I've talked about this this week. It's come up a couple of times, so I'm going to share it here. But I had a student, his name was Blake. He was brilliant. He didn't say a whole lot. He was a football player, but I knew he was really smart. Like, I just knew. And I think a lot of times people who are really brilliant in the classroom or in the office space get labeled as not social, not happy, doesn't like to be a team player, doesn't, we could go on and on. Blake would
Yeah.
have been one of those people. However, with this particular assignment, I just let them do whatever. And he created the most incredible video showing what he knew without saying a single word because he was an introvert. And did that meet my learning goals? Yep. Did it exceed it? Yes. Did it accommodate for him? Did I put him on the spot in the classroom? No. Did I make him get up in front of the classroom to speak because that's what we've always done? No. You see? So I started realizing that ed tech tools, along with what the district is requiring and providing, along with analog approaches, that's really how I started meeting all of those needs. So we didn't do
Hmm.
everything digitally.
No.
But if I gave my students a worksheet, which I did, and I still would do that, if I gave them a worksheet, they would just say, Ms. Poncio, can we take a photo of this worksheet and upload it into Google Drive, and then we can edit it, and then we'll also submit it through Google Drive into our learning management system. Why am I going to argue with that? Do you hear what they just told me they were going to do? That tells me that they understand technology and they
Yeah.
know how to make that worksheet work for them.
They're
So I
already
just,
critical thinking based on what you've
yes,
provided. You're giving them because of the lessons that you've given them previously, they're now able to feel comfortable to adapt those into situations that currently don't have those in place. So
yes,
that they've learned that from either yourself or from another educator, and
yeah.
they're asking you, look, that doesn't work for
They
me just
saw
in
a
this manner.
solution.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're taking that opportunity to say, look,
yeah,
I can still deliver this for you as
yeah.
long as you can allow me to do this. Now, I can still deliver it in the way you're wanting, but it's going to take me
Oh, it's that,
potentially
but I want to talk about that.
1.5 or twice as long
No,
to.
it will, and I want to talk about that because a TikTok video came up this morning, and I have it pulled up. I don't normally do this, but it really, wow, it hit me, and I'll tell you why it hit me.
Hmm.
You did ask about accommodations, like even now in my own day-to-day work or whatever,
Yeah.
personally. And I'm happy to share this story. Yesterday, I was meeting with one of my colleagues, and we are going over our quarter 3 goals. If you know, you know. I was in a Google Doc. I was sitting there and I was just feeling like that student, the one you just described. And I was like, I have to write all of this out on a Google Doc. Oh my God, I don't remember everything. Let me go into my calendar. And it was like, it became this tedious task
Mm.
of writing it down and submitting it in a way that wasn't accommodating for me. And so I know we're not going to accommodate, you can't accommodate for
No,
everything,
you
right?
can't.
So I started sitting there and I was like, you know what, Tisha? So I started thinking about how am I going to make this task less of a struggle?
Mm.
And I thought, okay, rather than just writing it out, I am going to add links. I'm going to highlight this text and I'm going to add links to the evidence because I can write out what I did and I can write it out in numbers and percentages and metrics. But I still think that there is a misconception of how powerful a personal professional portfolio is. So I started just pulling the evidence, like linking YouTube videos and linking Google Docs that were collaborative and linking all these things because I started thinking like those numbers are going to mean nothing really in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But if I link it to something that you can see, a photo, a YouTube video, a living Google Doc that is continuously changing, if I can link it to that, then for me, it gives me purpose. And then hopefully it's going to be impactful to the person looking at it, right?
Hmm.
And so what I saw on TikTok this morning, and I'll just give you a brief little bit, and I can't remember, we'll have to share it in this show notes, but it's talking about when you as a neurodivergent are looking at a task. We're going to take showering, for example. Okay, we're just going to keep it really basic because I told you last couple of times the spoon theory, and one
Yes.
spoon is just doing some real basic
Yep.
tasks in the day.
Hmm.
And here's why. It's very much about the energy that it takes to execute every step of that process. If the steps are too many, it's overwhelming.
Yep.
If the steps are too many and it's overwhelming, we as neurodivergent start shutting down. Especially, as you said, if it isn't something we're passionate about that gives us purpose. If
Yeah.
we are questioning it in the middle of the processes, because we're emotionally questioning, why is this process so long? I don't understand why it works this way. Because we're curious, we're inquisitive, and we're asking questions, and we're doing that self-talk. So we end up in a loop and we end up stuck. So showering, for example. Showering seems like a really basic task, and if you're a neurotypical, you're probably thinking, this is crazy, let me change the channel, but I don't want you to, because somewhere along the way, you're going to learn or know of a neurodivergent who
Mm-hmm.
struggles with this. So taking a shower is an overwhelming task, because what it means when you say, Tisha, it's time to take a shower, I'm like, oh, because my brain is not thinking about just the shower. My brain is thinking about, oh my gosh, okay, I got to wash my hair. That's a 4-step process. Kid you not, it's a 4-step process for me. Okay, you got to do all of those things. Okay. Then when I get out of the shower, there's a whole nother 4 to 5-step process, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking I have to do all of these processes in the shower, out of the shower. Then I'm getting dressed and I'm like, oh, my hair's still wet. That is at least a 10-step process. Got to dry my hair, have to make sure it has conditioner in it, right? Like,
Yeah.
is the curling iron on? All of the things. Is it going to be curly today? Is it going to be straight? So many decisions have to happen. And then once I have that done, it's like, oh, well, I need to put on my makeup. Oh, well, my makeup's going to entail 15 steps now because I've included my skincare into this. That is what my brain goes to when you say it's time for a shower. Now, see, neurotypicals are not thinking that. But I am going from beginning to end. And that is exhausting because I am thinking through all those steps. And I'm thinking I have to do all of those steps at one time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, you know what? Just don't want to shower. I just don't want to do
Just
it because I
easier
have
to
other
skip
things
it.
I need to do. There are
Yeah.
other things I want to get to. So when we're thinking about school tasks with students, or we are in a work environment whose processes are debilitating,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it isn't that we don't want to do. There's a bird outside. Oh no. Oh
And there's
dear.
it. Tisha's ADHD literally just kicked
Oh,
in while she's telling a story and sees a
Rick.
bird outside.
There's a bird with a bird, and it's snowing here. And we'll talk about the weather in a second. I'm sorry.
Going
It's
back
so
to what we were
sad.
just
They're
saying.
so cold. It's like -5 here. I need to give them food. Oh my God. I'm just so sad. Okay. They're trying to take care of each other. It's like the sweetest, saddest thing at the same time. It is so, I don't even know what to say.
And if you're just jumping into the episode, welcome to the Player 3 podcast. Tish was telling a beautiful story and explaining everything that was going on and then got distracted by a bird. But I completely agree with you with what you just said, because there is so many times, like if I'm like, right, I need to get ready, I need to start my day,
Oh my
I am
gosh.
breaking down exactly every single thing, and it has
Everything.
to be in a set routine
And do you
all
tell
the
yourself
time.
that you have to do all of it?
I have to do all of it because this
Okay.
is my way of getting ready. Each one has to be done, and it's always got to be done in a certain order. Like, I'll just
Yeah.
going off the shower example. Like, if I'm getting ready, I won't brush my teeth before I shower. I brush my teeth after. If I
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
before, it throws everything off.
Throws everything off. Yes. And I don't think that when we are working with people who don't understand that, they just think that we are out of our minds.
Yeah.
What I'm learning, though, and that's what I want to share on the podcast, because I really do have some really great educational things. Sorry about my bird distraction, but I love birds, Rick, and you know this.
I know you do.
It's so sad.
It's
Okay.
why it's probably best that she's not like facing a window when she's recording these videos.
I am facing a window.
I know, which is why I'm saying it's probably best that you don't face a window when we're recording these.
I didn't expect these birds. I feel like I have to go rescue them now because I love them and I see one in distress. It's so sad. Okay, so we're going to go back to this getting stuck. Do you ever tell yourself, in the shower, I got to get ready process. Do you ever say to yourself, self, I don't have to do all of those things.
No, I never
I
I never
just
say that to myself.
Do you see what I mean? So it's like, okay, if we are doing a process together, let's just take, for example, we have the ISTE session coming up and we're going to start doing the ISTE session. We're going to start
Crikey, we
planning
actually have
for it.
that to do.
Yeah, we do. It's basically like when we sit down to do something, we are all in.
Mhm.
We are all in and we split up the tasks and we're like, boom, 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 boom.
Yep. We've got full structure. We know what we're doing. We're ready to go. There's no questions.
But when you work with someone who isn't neurodivergent, a lot of times they just are naturally able to sit there and do a piece of it and then walk away. You just do a piece of it
I
and then they're going to walk
hate
away.
it
And I'm
when it's
like,
like
what?
that.
Now I can't do it. That's
No.
again. So here is a strategy that I found on TikTok, and we will link this video in the chat or in the show notes. So it's called Exit. Okay. It's called Exit.
Mm-hmm.
So when you enter these processes that seem overwhelming because you want to do every step of every
Yep.
process from beginning to end at the
Yep.
same time, enter with low demand. So here's the example for the shower. Okay, I have to shower. You know what? I don't have to wash my hair today. I don't have to. So I've taken that off my plate, right? I'm like, okay, I've showered. Then I'm like, you know what? Don't have to do the 10-step process of out of the shower. Don't have to do the 15-step process of skincare makeup. I could just do skincare and some mascara. So as I am entering with low demand and taking out, so that's where the X, extracting those optional steps,
Yep.
it begins to reframe me internally. Okay.
I'm liking the approach. Continue.
And then as I'm reframing it internally, I also can give myself permission to stop at a certain point. So the exit is enter with low demand. The X is extract the optional steps. We don't have to do all of the steps to get to the end. We don't have to. We put that pressure on ourselves because that's our neurodivergent brains. That's our processing, right? Like our executive function is like haywire. Okay.
Yeah, we always go
Internal
in
reframing.
all or
Yeah,
nothing.
and because we internally are telling ourselves before we ever start, oh, all of it has to be done. It has to be done in this exact order, in this exact way. And I've experienced that not just personally, but also professionally in multiple scenarios. And it is now understanding that it is our neurodivergent, for me specifically, the ADHD, the executive dysfunctioning. My brain is not working like your brain. I'm speaking to the audience who are neurotypicals. I've already internally framed how this is going to go. And if somebody comes in, like you said, and switches one little thing,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, it's all done. It's all fallen over, right?
Yeah.
So it's the process of that, the internal reframing of it doesn't all have to happen at this moment. And we've talked about that because I get in that a lot. I'm like, it all has happened right now. And you're like, no, it doesn't. So you need to have a buddy, a partner, somebody who can be like, it's all good. Do these 3 things. And then you are giving and if you can't give your permission, like the last T in exit is time it for permission to stop. If you don't feel like you can time it for permission to stop, have somebody else give you permission to stop. And that is why trust with other neurodivergents and some neurotypicals, I do believe
they do
neurotypicals
work.
can
Yeah,
be supportive.
they can. Yes, you're
Giving
completely
permission to
right.
stop. If I told you, Rick, you don't have to do all those processes. Let me tell you why. Let me help you walk you through it. You would go, okay.
It would ease my mind
Yeah.
if I have
Yeah.
that, because I am very much like, it has to be done in a certain way. Like you said, step in the shower. There's I think I have a 4-step process that I go through.
Yeah.
Then getting out, drying.
Yeah.
There's a
I mean, like,
full
think about it.
step process. Like I'm going
Yes.
through like, okay, head, face. I'm like doing the dance, knees and toes and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Because I've got to do it in that order. Now that could
Yeah, yeah.
be, I mean, some people would say, "Oh, that's OCD," that or
Mhm,
whatever it
mhm.
is, but
But
it's just the
it
way it
falls
is,
in the
and
it's the way our brains work.
exactly. It's same with my. I always have to brush my teeth, then gel my hair. I will never
Yeah.
do gel my
No,
hair,
no,
then
I
brush my
know.
teeth. It's gotta be in that specific order. But if I switch
If you
that
switch
round
it
accidentally,
Do you
it
remember
throws everything else off. And
Do you remember when
go
I
on.
had my eye infection? If
Mm,
anybody's listening, you go back and watch. I have glasses on a couple of the episodes, and I had this infection in my eye that just would not go away. So I had to get these really strong drops. Do you remember, because I was wearing my glasses and it was a change in my process? Normally I put my contacts on. When I put
yep,
my contacts on, my brain is like, you know what? It is time to be awake. We are in the world now.
ready to go.
But if I wear my glasses, my brain is like, oh, it's a free day. You can just chill.
Yeah.
You didn't put your contacts on. And
It's
it
not an
messed
important
with,
day today.
for what, 2 weeks I had to wear my glasses, and it messed me up every day. And you wouldn't
Mhm.
think that it would be something simple like that, but it is. It's just how our brains are wired. And I think this exit strategy, enter with low demand, extract optional steps, the internal reframe, the time it for permission to stop or have someone else give you permission, that I think might be a great solution for us
Mhm.
and for our listeners and for your students.
And it brings that intentional design in rather than just thinking, how do I accommodate to these people? Because at the
Well,
same
yeah,
time,
yeah.
when this is the thing as well, if we look at it, like I was thinking about my work at the moment. So
Mhm.
for those that don't know, I'm a product designer at a SaaS company, and
Mhm.
when I'm designing stuff not just for potential users to play around with. I'm also designing stuff for engineering.
Yeah.
And the way that they consume information is can be completely different to how a user is going to interpret something. But because my process requires me to do the necessary documentation, the software that I use allows me to create designs that I can link and create what feels like an interactive, real life prototype, as well as providing code snippets for the engineering team. It
Mm.
accommodates to everybody, but it's actually intentional design because
Mhm.
that is just the flow. Because I'm doing all these things that need to be done anyway, it's actually meeting everybody's needs instantly. And that's the
Mhm.
importance when it comes to intentional design in anything you do. And if you're being a leader and representing that, that then gets passed on to everybody else. And I'll just use her analogy of being in the shower. I also like to use analogies from time to time, maybe not as much as Tish does, but I like to use them. Intentional design is in everything.
Mm.
Excuse me, joking. I will pick up my non-promoted drink.
Product placement.
Yep, that is not. We are not sponsored by that company
I'm
in
really
any shape
sad
or
that it's
form.
not Dr. Pepper, by the way, but
You know, Dr. Pepper doesn't taste as good in the UK as it does in Texas.
it's really sad. I almost had a Dr. Pepper this morning, but it would require me to open the garage and let all the cold air in.
Yeah, you don't want to be doing that. And to be honest, so
Can we
if
talk
you're not
about the weather
watching
for a second? Yeah.
Coke, yeah, let me just give me a second.
You
I'm
want
on
to
a
talk
moment.
Coke?
I'm on
You're
the
gonna do an
drinking Coke. The
advertisement.
drinking Coke. No, the one thing I am saying
Did they
is
pay you and I'm not getting any of this?
I cannot confirm or
Coca-Cola
deny
is
that. The one thing that does annoy me is in the UK, we have what is now the sugar tax, been in for a while now. But Coca-Cola is the only company that has not decreased their sugar and has taken on the burden of the new sugar tax. Now, when I say burden, it is good that they're trying to cut down sugar. The UK
Well,
government's trying to do this,
don't you think they're
but
making more sales because of it? I mean, like, if I go
I
to the
personally do,
UK
because
and
I used to be a
yeah.
Pepsi fan, and since Pepsi has halved their sugar and changed it to sweetener, you can taste the difference.
I mean, you could just move to
And
America and you'd have all the sugar you
which
need.
is why I say that Dr. Pepper is not great in the UK. I mean, you've even tried it in the UK and you're just like,
I
no.
can't drink soda when I'm in the UK. It
Yeah,
is
it's
just
just
a
not
no-go
right
for me.
because
Mm-mm.
it's majority is sweeteners, whereas Coca-Cola is the only one that actually kept it. But anyway, before we go into, you wanted to talk about what was it?
I wanted to just share about the weather. I know that this is coming
Can
out like a little bit later, but when this comes
can
out, we will be on the other side of weather.
just before
We
you
need to have
talk
weather
about the
talk.
weather, can I just give my analogy? Because I feel like I
Please.
mentioned my analogy and we've gone in 4 different directions.
Well, you talked about Coke and then sugar, and that is how we tailspin.
Don't blame it on me. Because you've been talking for the last half an hour about your analogies and everything, and I just wanted a moment. Which I'm not objecting to. I literally asked you the
You know
question,
what?
you answered it very thoroughly.
I was about
So
to say yes.
this is, you know what? This goes back to what I was saying before, that this is why this podcast, in my opinion, suits us so well, because we have these deep conversations and not the small talk approaches with a lot of things. And I think because
I
we
try to
have
be
these deep
I
ones,
think
we just
yeah.
we go with the
We
flow.
try we try to be educational too. We want to teach you something
We
while we're
try. We
telling
can't
you all of
guarantee
our
it.
stories. Well, I think I think I did. I taught one
You
thing
did.
so
You
far.
did. You did. I didn't. I talked about Coca-Cola. Um, no, my
Taught us about
analogy
sugar.
when we're talking about intentional design is absolutely everywhere that we look if we look at it properly. And the reason why I say this, and I use this analogy with Tish, and I can't remember if I actually used it in the podcast before, but one of the biggest things that we see in real world, and especially over the last 20 years, it's become more prevalent, is accommodations for people with limited mobility. We see everywhere lifts, ramps, all those kind of things, because everything else before that was just steps. You just had steps. If something was higher up, you had to go up the steps. And this is always the problem that we have. And I've just remembered it was Lectures Dead podcast that I mentioned accessibility.
Oh, Lectures Dead. The Lectures Dead, if you were listening, we were guests on the We Video podcast called The Lectures Dead. It's a great episode. Rick will link it.
Sponsored
Yes.
podcast called
Yes.
Lectures Dead.
Yes. Thank you for the clarification. We
Just
will
wanted to
add
make
that
sure.
in the show notes.
Yes, so that will be
you.
there, so you can go and listen to that episode. Me and Tish towards the end, so you can skip if you wanted or listen to the whole thing. It's only 35 minutes long. Tish and I had a little bit of an argument towards the end of it. Not too bad, not too bad, but we had a little bit of a disagreement towards it.
I called
but
it a debate, but it's fine.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
We just started talking.
Playfully debating. Well, no, I was talking. You interrupted me, and I was just like, "Whoa, whoa! You've just been talking for 15 minutes, and
have you already said the analogy?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh gosh.
I was getting there. I was halfway through. The thing is, I'm getting back to it. Intentional design is not about doing the simplest thing first. Like in the example of the steps, the easy thing was just add steps. Intentional design is putting something in that accommodates, which I don't want to use really, but it ensures that people who have not got the mobility like the majority, they're looked at first, because everybody that can walk or walk up steps, walk on the side of the road or whatever it is, they can walk up a ramp and get into the place that they're trying to. But someone with limited mobility can only use the ramp. So if you incorporate the ramp at the very, very beginning, you've accommodated for everybody. That's intentional design.
Absolutely.
Putting in a step does not meet everybody's requirement, and therefore you then have to add more work to accommodate for those with limited mobility. Now take that into the classroom, take that into your workspace, take that into your personal life, however you want. Focus on the minority will accommodate for the majority, if not all. So yeah, that was my little spin on it. I mean, I took only 2 minutes with 15 minutes of diverting everywhere. But
I'm
that's my
glad everybody got to see
neurodivergent
you.
main.
I'm glad everybody got to see that, because usually they're seeing it from me with the birds outside. They really got a dose of neurodivergence today.
That was me going all over the place. I actually talked about that in one of my videos about how we articulate ourselves and the fact that we jump. You got a
We
little
like
bit of
to
an
jump.
extreme version. We love
That
to
was an
jump.
extreme Rick version of jumping today.
It was. Now, you wanted to talk about the weather. You wanted to show your true British standard and talk about. So I'm going to let you, for this moment,
I really think.
talk about
Thank
the
you.
weather.
I think that I am more British than people actually know, because I do like to talk about the weather, but I want to teach you something. So if you're listening and you are from basically anywhere in the world where it gets cold, you should know that where I live in North Texas, in Dallas, Texas, it only gets cold a couple of times a year. And when it's like go big or go home cold is what I'm going to call it. It's, I posted a video on TikTok, which my TikTok journey has been really interesting since Brian
It's
Seppi
been
was
a
on.
fun experience.
It's
Even
what
I'm not
I've
even
had.
part of it, and I get to enjoy it.
It's been like thousands of views, but one of these videos I did was just a Johnny Cash song playing in the background for like 15 seconds, showing my winter weather prep. And people were hard pressed about this video. I was like, they were arguing in the comments, and
They
I was
were
like, I've
arguing
never.
between themselves. Not Tish wasn't even getting
Not with
involved
me.
in it.
Yeah, with themselves. And there was a lot of comments of it's not that serious. And I think my quote on there, my text was like, there will always be evidence that I survived the 2021 like ice storm or whatever. And the thing is, people assume a lot of things about weather in Texas. And so I always just like to set people straight. So this is going to be an informational weather alert from Tisha Poncio, who is now turned into your local weather girl. I do think that would be a fun job, but I'm not gonna be able to do it.
Really?
I just do like on the ground. Yeah, I would be like the on the ground reporter. I could do that because I'm about to go outside and do
stood
some.
there with your umbrella and microphone
I would.
in the pouring rain and wind.
I would love. I've actually thought, why didn't I go into like reporting, because I love information and I can talk on camera.
I can literally imagine seeing you on the news going, "Well, John, it's very, very windy right now. I don't know what the hell's going on. I'm trying to stand here and actually deal with it all. It's very terrible."
It would be so fun. But I just like to clarify, because people assume things. You would always, and I think it would be this way, if you live in Manchester, you would assume, well, Tisha, it's 0 degrees Celsius there. I mean, I don't know what you're complaining about. Well, first of all, it doesn't get that cold here. Second of all, we are not built for that kind of cold. Third of all, our winter weather is not like anybody else's winter weather, because you just think it's going to snow. We get sheets of ice, like 3 to 5 sheets of ice sometimes.
Well, you need to stop hosing the driveway then right before it freezes.
And what else you should know is that our power lines are not underground. They are all above ground. So above ground power lines with 3 to 5 sheets of inches of ice. Okay. I mean, critically thinking through that, what's going to happen. And then our power grid is not even sustainable for what we need it to do. So all of those things create this perfect chaos where even right now I'm thinking, am I going to have power in 6 hours? Who knows? If I don't, I'm prepared. So we do all of this winter prep. And I just think it's really important to say that, yes, winter weather in Texas is that serious. There are multiple people who have lost their lives because power goes out sometimes 5, 7, 10, 14 days. That is a long time for people who depend on electricity to not have it. And if the roads are icy, we don't have snowplows. Nobody's treating the road. I can't go on my road right now. It's just 2 layers of ice right out there. So that's my welcome to winter weather in Texas segment.
So for my British friends and fellow Brits, let's just put it into context. So obviously everybody thinks Texas is cowboys and Indians and and sunny weather, sand and flat lands. 95% of it is, yes. However, I don't know if it's 95% or
That's
whatever, but
not
anyway,
right,
I'm
but
just
it's
making
okay.
I'm making numbers up right now. But my British fellow people will know that England has a summer of 2 weeks. So
Mhm.
now just take
Mhm.
that approach
Yeah.
and flip it for Texas, that they have
Yeah, for
2
winter.
weeks of winter. So when we have, like,
Mhm.
we're not designed for summer.
Yeah, no AC.
Our home, no AC. Our homes with it keeps the heat in. So
Yeah.
when we have like 90-degree or coming up to 100-degree, can't speak,
Degrees, yeah.
degree weather, which for Tisha is like, oh, that's quite nice weather. A little bit warm,
Oh, no, I've
but
been in the UK during those weeks.
yeah,
It's horrible.
it's
It's
a
horrible.
horrible experience. It's miserable.
Yeah.
It's just not fun. We have 2 weeks of that. In Texas, they have the opposite, where it's
Yeah.
freezing cold and everything. I remember when I went to Texas for the first time, it was in Dallas
TCA,
at
yeah.
the TCA. It was the beginning of February, and we
Yeah.
arrived literally the
Right
day
after.
after that
Yeah,
you'd
yeah,
had
yeah.
a load of snow. And
It
no
was
joke,
ice. It was
you went,
ice.
yeah, it was ice. You had minus something degree. I'm
Yeah.
talking in Celsius now, not Fahrenheit. But we're talking like teens in
Mhm.
Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
Very cold weather. I turned up. It was about 70, 80 degrees
Yeah.
when I turned up the next day. The
Yeah. Yeah,
only
yeah.
evidence that you had that there was snowfall or cold weather was there was still mounds,
Yeah.
small mounds dotted around of snow. And you're like,
Yeah.
why do you have snow mounds in 20-degree weather? How's that possible?
Yeah.
The reason is because they have such extreme weather. So, yeah, for anybody that's questioning what the winter weather is like in Texas and thinking all of it is just sunshine and tornadoes, it's not the case.
Do you know what's interesting? I do now that we're on British talk, TALK, British talk.
British talk.
I need you to know that my other video that did so great was me talking about how I don't like the big light. The big light makes me want to crawl in a hole.
Yes,
That
yes.
video popped off at like 200,000 views and 7,000 likes. And do you know my analytics for that? Do you know the majority of the people who were in my comments were from Scotland or like your area,
UK.
Manchester, London? And I was just like, these are I found my people. But do you know, for so long, for almost my whole life, everybody thought I was crazy for saying, do not turn that big light on. Do not do it. I will spin out of control with the big light. And I just didn't know that that was a thing there until this
Yeah.
video. So I just want to shout out all of my fellow Brits who may be watching and want you to know you're my people.
We love you all. So we've basically spent the entire hour talking about pretty much
Everything.
intentional design. And I had a few more other points, but we are an hour into this. So I think we're probably going to leave it there.
But let's shout out our TCA attendees, because this episode is coming out while everybody's at TCA in San Antonio. And I just want to say, best conference. This will be my 16th year consecutive at TCA, first as a regular, a standard teacher, as Rick would call me, then as an instructional technology coach, then as a Wakelet employee, now as a smart
You know
team
what?
member.
I'm not even going to address it. You want to keep bringing it up. That's your problem. Clearly,
It's a
you've
great
got
joke.
you've got
It's a great joke.
inner pain from my comments that I have apologized
Maybe that's
profusely.
it. I think I do. It's inner pain. It's the neurodivergent,
It is.
rejection dysfunction that I have because you've rejected me as a teacher.
Tisha just loved me, and then the moment that I said that was like heartbreaking for her, which is not true. It's not true. It was not heartbreaking for her.
But this conference is going to be,
But
it is such a great conference. I know it was your first conference.
it was my
I
first
actually
and
met,
only time I've been to TCA, which is
yeah,
disappointing.
I met, it's so interesting thinking back, but I've been going to TCA so long. I actually met Carl Hooker at a food truck when he was an instructional technology specialist and I was an instructional technology specialist, and we were starting at the same time. I cannot remember that might have been 2010-ish. So it's been a long time. And then to see, I'm an author who we have Valerie as our editor. Carl is an author of multiple books and had Valerie as an editor. It's so interesting kind of looking so many people, great educators come out of this TCA group. And I'm just so excited to see everybody.
So proud to be part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I do need to be over in at TCA another time because it's in San Antonio for the next couple of years, isn't it?
This year it'll be, I think it is back in Austin next year. I think this year San Antonio, next year is Austin.
I think it's San Antonio regularly.
Again?
Yeah.
Regularly.
Yeah,
Let's
because
see. Okay,
I looked. We're doing before the episode finishes, Rick is going to do a quick Google search, and probably there may be people in listening to this going, "Rick's wrong. Don't listen to him."
Yeah.
TCA and Expedition. So he's got it here. Previous dates: San Antonio, Austin, Austin, San Antonio.
Oh, you're right. It will be in San Antonio
27,
again for the next
28,
3.
29.
Oh my gosh.
Till 2030 is going to be in San Antonio.
You know
apparently.
why? Do you know why? You were right about that. I was wrong. I'm saying it live on the air. You were right. I was wrong. Yeah. But you know why?
I have a recording of it.
Do you remember when we were driving to ISTE from Dallas to San Antonio?
Also in San Antonio?
Yeah.
Shout out to everybody from San Antonio. That was a great city.
I can't get you back on track today. It's so funny. Do you remember when we passed the convention center, I told you, I said it's under construction. And so that is why it's going to be in San Antonio for the next, who knows how long,
Austin's
because
was being,
so it won't. And I wonder, South by Southwest won't be there. It is kind of sad because that was a legacy place. I met so many people in that convention center and won an award and got to go. It's fantastic organization. All of the people, and I just think they know how to put on a good show. So.
Well, yeah, they had South by Southwest there every year.
Well, no, I'm saying amazing. TCA. TCA knows how to put on a good show. That's what I'm saying.
All right. I was up in the conference center. You're clearly doing the conference organizers. Fine. Okay, we're not. This is the problem that we have. Being neurodivergent, I think Tisha's talking about one thing when actually she's talking about another.
Oh, we do have to do a lot of clarifying, don't we?
Too often, but then again, that's what makes our conversations so entertaining.
So recapping, intentional design.
Yep.
Great topic there. Recapping the exit strategy if you're getting stuck in those loops and you're neurodivergent or you're neurotypical and know somebody with neurodivergence. Student leadership, give them purpose, give them a passion, and let them go.
Yeah, give them freedom, because trying to stick to a process is not going to work, but we can deliver if we're not having our hands tied, essentially.
You're right.
So
100%.
By representing as a leader who advocates for those things, because you're not just tailoring just for neurodivergence, you're tailoring for the masses, for all students. You are being a leader, and by doing that, you're representing how to be a leader for those students to be leaders for other people. Doesn't matter whether they're neurodivergent or neurotypical. It helps all, which is so important. And I don't know why, but whenever I get into a flow, I feel so professional when I'm talking. I just start rolling things off.
You know what it is? That's a sign of growth. Think about it. No, that's a sign of growth. I think back to what we were saying, talking about speaking. And I think, Rick is a great example of seeing someone doing something he wanted to be better at. And now you are leading that. You're modeling that. So
thank you,
keep
Tish.
doing it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And to everybody that just heard that from Tish, I honestly don't think I'm doing a great job. But that's the normal way. Tish, even when we listen to our podcast with Lecturer's dad, you were saying to me, like, who is this person listening to yourself?
Sometimes
she didn't say it about me. She was just like, and there's Rick.
Well, because when you listen to something, you're usually honed in. It's just like if we take a group picture, aren't you going to hone in on what you look like and not anybody else? It's the same thing. When you're listening to a podcast, you're going to listen to yourself.
I tend to see myself immediately and cover myself up with with my thumb to then say, look at all these beautiful people.
It's not true. You do not. No, I think it's good though to do the self-reflection. Listen to yourself.
It is.
Record some affirmations for yourself and get used to your voice. I think that's
Yeah.
it. Getting used to your voice is half the battle.
Yeah, because what we hear in ourselves is not what
Yeah.
everybody else is hearing. So understanding that, recognizing that, and accepting it is 95% of the battle.
Rick,
really
we
is.
have some incredible guests coming up soon.
We have
I'm
got
really
some
excited.
amazing guests coming up, and
We do.
Once Tish gets off her like conference extravaganza, we'll have some amazing guests coming on who have already booked. Some are currently organizing dates, which we're super excited. And then
great stories.
Obviously,
it's all about their stories too.
It is, and that's what's important. And we're obviously in conference season right now in the education space. I will be attending ISTE. Tisha will be.
I'm kidding. I will be attending ISTE.
Tisha will be attending. You know what? If she turns around to me and says, I'm not going to attend, I am going to change my flight direct to Orlando
Dallas.
and actually go to Dallas.
Drag me there.
Drag her. Even if she's not literally just got out of bed, I'm going to drag her and she's going to be like, but I need my stuff. And like, tough. You knew we were doing this. You've had plenty of time. You're coming right now. I've already booked your seat and the flight's taken off. No, she's going to be there. We are going to be there. We can't wait to see people. Tisha's already got way ahead of me and is meeting loads of people at FETC, TCA, and everything in between. Me being the typical Brit, and obviously I have to travel further, so that's my excuse. I will see all your lovely faces at ISTE. I'm going to be counting down every single episode with that now.
Yeah, be good.
But if you've made it this far with the episode, thank you for listening. We do really appreciate it. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up, give it a follow, or subscribe wherever you are listening to. If you have any questions, you know what? If you have a story, you have a question, let us know in the comments. We love reading them. We love talking to our community. And if you want to follow us, I mean, Tisha's already getting like 100,000 views on her video, so ignore her. Come to mine because I'm not even hitting 1,000 views yet.
Follow Rick on TikTok.
Yeah, let's boost those numbers up for me. Now, all our links are in the show notes, so if you want to follow us on any of the social networks, please do. You can DM us, get conversation started. We'd love to hear it. Until next week. Which Tisha will be back from TCA probably.
Yeah.
We'll see you then.
I hope so. Okay. See you then.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.